Hey Kipsters, welcome back. This is Miss Ramos. I hope all is well. We are going to get another at-bats at explaining author's purpose and central idea for this week. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Author's purpose. What is it again? Well, it's the reason the author writes and the choices they make as they write. So we want to look at our first steps, which is when we're reading to consider the topic of the text. Who or what is this text about? Then we want to determine the central idea of the text or section. What does the author most want me to know about this topic? Then we want to consider our signpost, right? Word gaps, extreme language, contrast, contradictions, quoted words, numbers, and stats. It is all written purposefully, whichever nonfiction signpost it is. The signposts do a couple of things. Authors include signposts to either clarify information, emphasize information, or illustrate information for the reader. All right, they also include signposts to illuminate or show their point of view or biases. For example, questions like, why is the author choosing to quote this specific person? Why these words? Why include that? Or if they're using numbers and stats, why is the author choosing to include a certain statistic? There's got to be some kind of reason, underlying reason. And these help us understand the author's own point of view and their purpose for writing. For example, I'm going to use a title from one of last week's texts. Officials say coronavirus targets elderly and ill, children mostly unaffected. Well, when I look at this word targets, my mind thinks of the nonfiction signpost extreme language or absolute language, aka emotional language. When I notice that, I stop and think and ask myself, why would the author use this word? Why not a more neutral word like effects instead? Then I want to ask, are they trying to clarify, emphasize, or illustrate information? An exemplar response could be that the author uses extreme language in order to emphasize the seriousness of the risk. Looking at another piece, I noticed this quoted words here, but I also noticed that this quoted section where it says the lungs of an 80-year-old aren't the lungs of a 20-year-old, this versus piece also let me think of the nonfiction signpost, contrast and contradiction, comparing those two things. So I stop and think and ask myself, why would the author contrast between the lungs of an 80-year-old with those of a 20-year-old? Again, asking myself, are they trying to clarify, emphasize, or illustrate information? An exemplar response could be that the author uses a contrast in order to clarify that elderly people are at greater risk because their lungs are weaker than younger people. So again, using these particular words right here, clarify, emphasize, or illustrate information so that I may understand the purpose that the author is writing for. So again, Kipsters, you want to stop, think, and ask yourselves, one, first of all, identifying the topic and central idea. Then determine the signpost the author is using. When you see those signposts, the nonfiction signposts, you ask yourself, is the author or with this nonfiction signpost, is the author trying to clarify, emphasize, or illustrate information? And there you have it. Now you try.